Shelly Armato, CEO and co-founder of My Smart Plans. And today we are sharing time with Mark, and he's going to do a quick overview about his company, and then we'll just get started. So welcome.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelly. Thank you for having me today. I'm Mark Berger. I'm the President and Chief Product Officer. I'll explain that title in a second, of Securitech. We manufacture innovative high-security door locks in a little town on the Hudson River called New York City, where I try to impress people, tell them we're New York City's largest lock manufacturer. It's not too exciting when I tell you the corollary. We're also the smallest lock manufacturer because we're the only ones still doing it within New York City, physically manufacturing, banging metal, assembling lock sets, putting everything together. It's a lot of fun. Our solutions are all over the country. You'll see us in the back of your CVS or a Nordstrom, or all sorts of retailers. That's one series of solutions that we have, and we go the gamut, lots of schools, education, behavioral health care. Our goal as a company is to always come up with an innovative solution that takes us one step beyond whatever any other lock set is doing.
That's amazing. So what's your history? What brought you here?
Well, I was to a certain degree born into the business. My father and I started it back in the 1980s. 1983 actually is our incorporation date in April. And it started out importing, he started out importing 4-point lock sets from overseas. Concept was good. However, door standards changed the moment you cross the Atlantic Ocean. So concept good, installation impossible. The goal for Securitech was to start creating 4-point locks that fit inside American doors, right? So we started working on that. And then what we discovered, it was never the product that people were interested in. It was a solution. It was what the product could do for them.
Mm-hmm.
And if there isn't a problem, people don't need us. There are plenty of other ordinary lock sets that are out there. Once they have something that can't be solved by ordinary door locks, that's where we come in. And the biggest part of it is marrying safety and security together, so you don't have to sacrifice one for the other.
So do you believe in synchronicity?
Yes, it's a
Like
great
Divine
album by the
Appointments?
Police.
No, like divine appointments, like how things are like so weird how they happen, and then you're just like, I was just thinking about that.
It's kind of very interesting. It's a big part of what we do. And it's sometimes we'll start sketching an idea. And, I have a lot of napkins over here with lots of different things on them. And they stay as a napkin until someone identifies the problem. And then we say, okay, we've got something for you. We do much better that way. We've tried to create some products and then convince people that there's a need for them.
Yeah.
We had a tubular deadbolt that was top rated by Consumer Reports twice. Couldn't sell them. And the reason we couldn't sell them is that we weren't answering a defined need. Yes, every other deadbolt only comes out 1 inch. And, the way that most buildings or residential homes are constructed, separating a door 1 inch from the frame is pretty easy. So the 2-inch meant that you really couldn't separate it or kick it through. But we didn't know how to get to that audience, very honestly. That wasn't our space. So even though we were top rated, even all the accolades,
yeah,
couldn't move.
Yeah.
So,
well, we have experience a little bit with that because we've reinvented the construction industry. So old way of doing business, no one really knows what's going on. You have to order all the lock sets and you hope you have the right information. And if you don't, holy cow. So we have reinvented all of this document disasters. And it's so funny because I'll talk to someone that I know that they know the problem, but they're so emaciated in their life that it's just like, well, what if I would have to hold my friend accountable, or what if, you know what I'm saying? And it's just so funny. Either you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. There's like no gray line. It's either over here or over there. So it's interesting. I am taking care of an elderly family member, and he lives out of town, and he doesn't want anybody in his house. So my first thought was, you know what, I'll get a lockbox and put it on his door, and somebody can have the key and they can come in and out of the lockbox. Well, then I was like, once they have the code, anybody can have the code. So then I was talking to him. I said, what about if they had your garage door opener? Well, that's another really bad idea. And I thought, what about if there was a lock that actually I could send a code to it, and whoever's opening it, that code's only good for 5 seconds or whatever. And once they leave, it's done. Is that a great idea? Is it already invented?
Just go to the Home Depot.
It's invented.
It's invented. And first of all, a lot of that is used in the timeshare rental industry.
Oh, okay.
So for example, my family and I took a place in Cape Cod last summer, and all of our instructions came digitally, including how to access the home. And our code was only valid, for that week that we were there.
Wow. So I didn't invent anything. I'm really not smart. Okay.
No, but you've identified a need that,
yeah.
And one of our beliefs over here, I'll give you an example, is I was at a trade show. We've got a guard plate that conceals cylinders. So you put a magnet on the guard plate, slide it up, and then you can put your key in and operate the cylinder. We came up with it against vandalism, against picking the cylinder and things like that. Millions of codes, so it's not like you can use one key on all the different ones. Okay, so a fellow from Starbucks came up to us at an ASIS International trade show. I can still remember the conversation, exactly where I was standing, all those sorts of things come back to you. And we're going through it, and he's talking about, well, we might want it where we could change out that bay that holds the combination, so that if we wanted to change keys in different places, and I thought about it a little bit, I said, well, it's really not been an issue that we've had encountered, but I could see where I could put up a screw, you open it up, you would loosen out the screw, you could pull it out, swap it out. Yeah, we could do that. He goes, well, how many would I need to order for you to put in this new function or feature? I said, well, our minimum quantity for something like this would be 1.
Yeah.
And he goes, 1? I said, yeah, we like to make new things. And frankly, the odds are if you need it, somebody else may need it too.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of our things start, and we go out there. So with us as a company, again, as Securitech, everybody else stops. That's where we start. But even our own products, we'll add functions, we'll add features, because the end user has asked for them. One of our hardest parts, with bringing in salespeople from the construction industry, is explaining to them that we have a secret 3-letter word that we like everybody who works for us to say to the end user, to say to the customers or dealers and people like that. They said, okay. And I said, and you have to change everything you've been told, which is, let me check with the factory, which is, let me check our literature, let me look for a model number. So this magic code word that we've created cuts out all of that. Somebody asks you something, you reply, yes. Can you do that? Yes. Then get into the details, communicate back to us. And we've never had to come back and tell somebody, no, we can't do that. We may have convinced them to do something else that we have in our magic bag of tricks.
Yeah.
We may have sent them to another product that exists, because if somebody else makes it, we won't replicate it. No reason to. It exists. So we have a lot of fun that way. But let me go back to one thing you were talking about, functions and construction documents and how complicated things are. So I'll be discreet here, but what I like to explain to people is that the reason that nobody dreams of getting involved in the door and lock industry, of getting involved in contract hardware, or being a hardware specifier, is that, well, on the one hand, if you remember Felix Unger from The Odd Couple, getting involved in our industry, Felix looks like an Oscar, okay? Because we are detail, very detail oriented. And to get something right, you talked about one door where you wanted a specific function. Well, now take an office complex, now take a hospital, now take a university.
I know.
Okay. To get the hardware specification correct, I like to tell people we are an MFQ industry. And people look at me, go, MFQ industry, what's that? Well, in order to order something properly from us or to detail something properly, you have to answer a million questions, because every opening has a bunch of questions, from the hinges to a kick plate, to the door lock function, to the inside of the door, to the outside of the door, to people using terminology incorrectly, because none of us took a class in high school on door and hardware specifications.
Yeah, that would be a great class.
Yeah. So the comment you'll frequently hear on a construction site is that the door and hardware, when you're trying to close off a project, the door and hardware section makes up the lion's share of punch list items.
Yeah.
It's true for several reasons. Number one, we're the last thing that gets done on a job site typically. Number two, all the other items have typically been punched out before you get to the doors and hardware. Mm-hmm. And number three, there's usually terrible communication beforehand of what needs to be done for each door. That's one thing, but the other part is really communication through changes, because when a building was originally designed, to the user actually defining every place they're going, lots of changes that have occurred.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We need to be able to roll with the punches and adapt to all of those changes that are coming up.
I was amazed. One of the universities that we supported their construction project, we went in, of course, visited and did like you did, bring our computer. This is what we're doing. And there was a key room. And until now, I had never thought about a key room. It was just like, oh, okay. Well, then I look in there, and what they do is, because they never have that final closeout document of the keying schedule, they just make 10 copies of every key, and then they have a keying room. So we came in, we're like, well, here's your keying schedule. And they're like, we've never found our keying schedule. I'm like, well, we collect all that data, so it's right here. Right. And so they said, what are we going to do with our keying room? I'm like, you're going to have to keep it for a while till, those doors are changed out. But it's so many working components in the project that you just don't know what someone else is going through, suffering, trying to make the right decision with your rug always. I always laugh, your rug is always moving, like the magic carpet's always moving, and you're like, I'm jumping. Okay, go,
So I saw a document this morning that literally I could go and kiss the architect or the hardware specifier that put it together. And for the benefit of folks that are watching this, I'll tell you why I thought it was great. Starting at the beginning, in the preamble, listed clearly that everything is specified for, function, feature, blah, 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 blah. And they said where a particular manufacturer's model number is supplied and furnished and written inside the specification, that is a no sub item. If you would like to propose a substitution, please provide it to us. We will evaluate it and let you know whether this is acceptable prior to the bid date. In other words, you're bidding on this job the way that we've envisioned it. Don't waste my time 6 months, a year down the road trying to have me reevaluate everything that I've done solely because your goal is to save your employer a nickel.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was number one. Started in the preamble. Then he listed about the construction meetings that are required. Then he listed the qualifications of the installers for the electrified hardware. I would have liked to have said also for the multi-point locking hardware, but I'll take the electrified hardware. That's better than I normally see. And then the other thing that this particular specifier did, which I thought was just terrific, was after each hardware set, he listed step line by line the exact function of how the hardware was supposed to operate, how the alarms were supposed to sound at each opening, so that there was no confusion and everybody could agree what was there. Just a terrific document to see. And that extra time is the difference on the job.
And also being able to share that and distribute it to the people that need it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's eliminating PDF passing. That's what we laugh about, is PDF passing. We had a situation where we were building, supporting a city hall, and it was specified type of alarm system, and the subcontractor changed it, and he was like, hey, I had an approved submittal. And so with our system, it's like, well, you looked at this at 2:42 on the 12th of February, and so no, you had the approved document right here and you chose this, so that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we have all these stories of the old way of business creating, to save $1. It's like,
Yeah.
no, just do what the specification says. It's right here. It's super easy. It's right here. Right. If you do that, you can't go wrong. So anyway, it's been an adventure. But okay, so tell me about New York. Are you reopening? I saw that did COVID get your business?
So as we did not lose a single day of work. We were designated by New York State as an essential business. They said apply by Friday afternoon, and we'll let you know by Sunday night. This was a year ago, back in March, and we worked that Saturday and Sunday. And sure enough, 4:30 on Sunday, the announcement came in that we were designated an essential business. I came in Monday, Tuesday, and we had staffs. The factory start coming back in shifts. First we called back the primary group, then the little support group, but we've been working continuously. Knock on wood, we haven't had a single case spread through the office, through the factory. We've had people at home and other issues, but we adopted a policy that said, if you don't feel well, don't come in. Don't worry about taking your temperature. Don't worry. Just if you're not feeling 100%, stay home, cover you. It's not an issue. And we've had a great workplace that way. And then by May, we started bringing the office back. We've only had one person who's remained remote, and he's been just as effective. So we've been okay as a company, and thank you for asking. And sales have been fine and all that. New York as a location, it's quite sad to see the empty storefronts. Walking through Midtown Manhattan and seeing it as a ghost town because folks have not returned to offices. That's very disheartening, especially when you realize all the small business people, the support network for all those folks are the ones who are really suffering. But hopefully it's spring. We'll get into summer, and I'm thinking the fall will be some sort of a return. I also, I get on my high horse and tell people that while it's wonderful to be remote and you can function remotely, and we've all shown that we can get the job done, get the work done, you can't develop your next generation of leaders. You cannot develop your staff remotely. There is something about the water cooler conversations. There's something about the freedom to walk over to someone's desk and ask them the question or two. There's the observation for young people to watch how other people are working and develop their habits and things like that. So I believe there's going to be a much fuller return to workspaces than people are fearing. Yes, someone who used to come to the office 5 days a week may now only come 3 or 4. So they may get a day of relaxation and save the commute time, especially in New York, where it's not uncommon for people to commute an hour and a half each way. So that's 3 hours of time that wears on a person. So I certainly respect that and understand that. But if you want to build, we're in the construction trade, you can't build remotely. You've got to build connected. Yeah,
we definitely we've done good too. I mean, we've held on but oh my gosh, our industry, we got hit 65% like immediately because we build a lot of airports.
Okay.
And so our airports are like, oh, we're on hold now for 2 years. Oh my gosh. But as God would have it, we learned and we grew and we're proficient at tenacity and repositioning. And so here we stand going, oh, okay, I get it. Thank you. Now people can have a flex schedule, and we did figure out, the cloud, the cloud. That's just beyond me, the cloud. But anyway, I got people that can handle that. But well, I want to thank you for your time. I'm sure we will run into each other since you're doing the VA. We're actually, I think, going to be supporting all the VA hospitals that they build. Yeah, so always reach out if there's something you see that we can make your life easier and make our deliverable better, that's exactly how we grew, just like
Great.
you. Give me an idea. What is it? Okay. So anyway, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your enthusiasm for the industry, and I wish you well, and we will be in touch.